The Hoop Heads Podcast is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
I try to inspire in the kids to believe in themselves. No matter what their dreams are. Like I said, it's more than just basketball. A lot of these kids that come in want to be doctors or lawyers or architects, or some of them want to be football players or baseball players. Actually, I had a couple that want to be soccer players at my last clinic. So it's more than just basketball. What they take away from, I hope what they take away from my clinic is life lessons and inspiration to, to look past, their, hardships or their trials or their obstacles, and, help them to overcome, those things, because it's going to happen. Obstacles are going to happen. Hardships are going to happen. Difficulties are going to happen. You can't stop that from happening in your life. But what you can do is always believe that you will be successful, you will achieve, and that you will and can overcome.
NBA veteran and Newtown High School alum William Smush Parker was born with a basketball. Most known for his role as the starting point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers, Smush played for various teams including the Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, Phoenix Suns, Miami Heat, and the Los Angeles Clippers. Throughout his 16-year professional basketball career, the game of basketball has allowed Smush the opportunity to experience a copious number of countries, cultures, and people, including Greece, China, Russia, the Dominican Republic, Iran, Mongolia, Croatia, Tunisia, Morocco, and Venezuela. These experiences have evoked a passion to use his platform to create a more fair, just world that elevates the humanity in us all. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. You'll help the Hoopheads Podcast reach a wider audience, and we'll enter you in our monthly drawing to win an official Hoopheads Podcast t-shirt. Get ready to enjoy this episode of the Hoopheads Podcast as I talk with NBA veteran Smush Parker. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads Podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here, your host, and today we are pleased to welcome to the podcast Smush Parker. Smush, welcome.
Yes, Mike, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to get a chance to talk to you a little bit about your basketball journey and then dig into some of the great things that you're doing today with your Smush Parker Elite program and some of your charity work. So we want to start with how you got into the game of basketball as a kid growing up in New York City. Obviously, a tremendous amount of tradition and great players that have come out of the city. So talk a little bit about how you got into the game as a kid and what made you fall in love with it.
All right. Well, like you said, I'm from New York City. It's almost impossible not to play basketball living in New York. There's a basketball court on every corner. They're like, grocery stores. There's a grocery store on every corner in New York City. So as a kid, I, just grew up, loving the game. My dad played, my mom played. I was always around the sport, always hitting the beat of the ball, hitting the pavement. And, I just, grew to love the game. I grew to, do it. I made it to the NBA. I played overseas 10 years, so I think I'm pretty good at it.
What was your earliest memory of the game? What's the first thing that you remember when you think back to being a little kid? What's the first basketball memory you have?
The first basketball memory is I grew up literally everywhere my dad went to play. He played more basketball than I did. So I was, again, always around the sport, sitting on the sideline, sitting on the bench, watching my dad play with his friends, with his older buddies. And that would be my earliest memories of the game. Every Saturday morning, waking up with my dad early in the morning, 5, 6 a.m., traveling on the train and going to the gym and being on a basketball court by 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., just watching my dad play.
When did your dad and his friends finally let you get out on the court?
It wasn't until I was about 16, going on 17, that my dad's friends finally allowed me to play the game. When I showed myself approved.
Understood. Understood. So instead, you're on the playground trying to fight your way into games, as a young kid. So describe what that was like when you're 11, 12, 13, 14 for people who maybe haven't been in that pickup playground basketball culture of how you have to prove yourself in order to be able to get onto the court as a young kid.
Well, it's a different age, a different culture now. Now they just let anybody play basketball and get onto the court. But when I was growing up, you actually had to, be good.
Imagine that.
You actually had to have some game to be allowed on the court. If not, you was over on the sidelines, on a half court playing, 21 or, one-on-ones with the other scrubs. But for in the era of that I grew up where basketball was considered a man's sport, you definitely had to come and bring your game. You had to be tough. You had to have some skill, and you couldn't just be some Joe Smo who shot every time you touched the ball or shot threes from 40 feet away. You just had to have game.
And so what did that, growing up that way, compared to the way kids grow up in the game today? And I've talked to some other people about this, and it's so different from, I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 48. And so I grew up not so much in the city, but I grew up playing on the playgrounds here in Cleveland and trying to find games. And, I wasn't on the AAU circuit and playing in a gym with a coach and a referee and people in the stands. So how do you think that growing up the way you did, playing in pickup basketball games and playing on the playground with all people of different ages and, different skill levels and all that stuff and really having to prove yourself, how do you think that benefited you compared to today's system?
Well, definitely, I owe everything that I have accomplished, everything that I've done in basketball to, my upbringing in basketball and how I was raised, playing ball in the street. I didn't grow up in the AAU system. Like yourself, I didn't play organized basketball until I was about 13, 14 years old. I didn't play AAU ball until I was 17 years old. I only played one season of AAU ball. And, but before then I played on the street every day, played in the park every day. And what the streets, really help to develop is you're not playing against your age group in the streets. Like there's no age restrictions. There's no, okay, this park is only 13-year-old kids are playing. This park is only 14 or 15-year-old. No, you could go to the park. You could be playing against 35-year-old men. You could be, playing against 18-year-olds. So for me, I always played against guys who were older than me, stronger than me, better than me. So it made me tougher. It set us a bar that I was a goal that I needed to I wanted to reach.
I think that's something that's lost in today's game is exactly what you described when you're playing against older guys who maybe even they're not as talented as you are, but when they're bigger, stronger, faster, more mature, and you're a 13-year-old kid and you're playing against a 26-year-old adult, you've got to learn how to use your body. You've got to learn you got to learn those tricks of the trade. You got to be able to do things and shoot the ball from weird angles and make shots when somebody passes it to you, so you don't have to sit out when you want to get picked back up for the next game. Exactly. So I think that's something that kids today are missing. There's a question that I wanted to ask you ever since I kind of thought that we were going to get a chance to have you on. What is it like if you go to New York City today versus New York City when you were a kid and you were 13 years old? What does the pickup basketball scene look like in New York City today compared to what it was 20 years ago, let's say?
Oh, it's terrible. Like I mentioned, like I mentioned earlier in the interview, they just allow anybody to get on the court and play basketball. I know I grew up in the era where, like I said, if you couldn't play, you wasn't allowed to call next. You wasn't allowed to play because guys who came to the guys who actually they didn't want to waste that time. They came, they played against guys who knew how to play ball. They wanted to get a good sweat, a good run, and then when they were done playing ball, then they let the scrubs play. But nowadays, if you come to the park with a pair of sneakers and aspirations to play, you could call next and they allow you to play, whether you can play basketball or not.
Yeah, it's a totally different world. Are there still Are there still games though to be had? Can you still find games? 'Cause I know around here in Cleveland, there's just not like the places that I used to play back a long time ago. Like those pickup games, at least quality pickup games, to your point, don't exist. I think you're right in that, everywhere that there's not the place where the really good players congregate anymore because guys are playing indoors, or when you're talking about a high school kid, they're all playing on the AAU circuit. None of those kids are on the playground, so there just isn't that opportunity to play pickup basketball the way you did when you were a kid.
Exactly. Like, well, you hit it on the head when you said these AAU kids are not playing in the street anymore. They're playing in gyms. They're with their respective coaches, teams, and they're a little bit more apprehensive of playing ball because they don't want to injure themselves or break a nail or anything.
Yeah. Do you think there's any barriers if you think back to the time when you were a kid, and if the current system was in place? So much of what is done in basketball today, whether it's with all the people that have individual trainers or whether they're playing on an AAU team. I'm not talking here about the top 100 high school players in the country who get everything paid for and flown around the country and that kind of stuff. But for your average kid who lives in New York City, who maybe doesn't have the the money and the ability to travel and do those things, is it more difficult for a kid to get into the game today, do you think, than it was during the time when you were a kid?
Well, I don't know. I can't say that. It is or it isn't. I know that there is a lot of attention and hype and exposure you get for playing in the AAU circuit, but I'm definitely not gonna say that you can't get exposed not playing on the AAU circuit, because I'm a product of not playing on the AAU circuit and still getting a shot and playing in the NBA. So if you know how to play this game, like it'll definitely open doors to giving you opportunities to showcase your skills. For me personally, my personal story is I was discovered playing on the streets of New York City.
And so you had a mentor, Rodney Parker, correct, who helped you with get there. So talk a little bit about your relationship with him, how that started, and then what he was able to do to kind of guide you down the path that eventually ended you in the NBA.
Man, listen, I can't. There's not enough words to express how grateful I am of Rodney Parker. No relation. We have the same last name, but we're not related. But he discovered me at West 4th Street, playing ball when I was about 14 years old, 15 years old. And he opened the doors to basketball, not only here in New York City for me, but he opened the doors to, meeting connections with AAU teams and potentially college coaches. And, he set a course for me, like from that day forward, like he set a course for me to get to the NBA, and all I had to do was walk in everything he said to do, and I did. Just to go back a little bit, when I met him, he took me from not only just playing ball at West 4th Street, he took me to, okay, you know what? I know there's good run up in Harlem right now. Why don't we go to Harlem and play there? And we go play there. And then another day, like, I know there's a couple good runs in Queens, so let's go play in Queens, and I would go play there. So he opened the doors to New York City basketball for me. I wasn't just, local anymore. I started to, play against other different competitions, other good guys who had game in this part of New York, guys who had game in this part of New York. And, that gave me the exposure to, get to play on the AAU team that I played on, which was Aim High at the time. Kenny Smith was, the ambassador of Aim High, and Coach Kev Jackson was the head coach. But once I made it on the AAU circuit, then he helped me get to choose a high school that I played in, and then he helped me choose the college team that I played in, and it was just a straight line that I had to walk in, and I made it to the NBA all because of him.
So before you met him, Was it just, hey, I love playing basketball, I love the game, and I'm just playing because it's what I love to do? And then he kind of gave you the blueprint and kind of get you to think about, hey, there might be something more for me in this game, where I might have an opportunity to, go to college. I might have an opportunity to play professionally. Was that something that was on your radar before you met him, or did he kind of put that on your radar?
To tell you the truth, like I always wanted to play in the NBA. I just didn't have the know-how or the knowledge on how to go about it. I was a street ball player. I watched my dad play street ball. That's all I knew. My dad, as good as he was, he didn't play past the high school level. So all I knew was playing in the street and watching the NBA on TV. So I didn't know about college. I didn't know about going to certain high schools. I didn't know about playing in leagues and I didn't know any of that because I didn't grow up playing in a league. I didn't grow up playing structured basketball. So I didn't have that information until I met Rodney Parker. He opened the doors to, okay, there's a whole different world. There's a whole path to get into the NBA. You gotta go to camps. You gotta go to clinics. You gotta, play on this team. You gotta, play organized ball in this area. You have to, you need college. You need school to get to the NBA. So let's pick the right school. So there was a wealth of information that he had that I wasn't exposed to before him.
So once you decided that was the direction that you were going to go and you're under his guidance, what did the recruiting process look like for you? Obviously, you went to a JUCO first and then ended up at Fordham. But talk a little bit about when you were in high school, what that recruiting process was like for you as a kid from New York City.
Well, I didn't really have a recruiting process because I was a late bloomer. And when I say that, a late bloomer, I only played 1 year high school basketball. And so the world, so to say, didn't know who I was. The
Right.
world didn't know, who Smush Parker was. New York City didn't even know on that level, didn't know who Smush Parker was. I just came out of nowhere, pretty much. I hear that a lot now. People will say, you just came out of nowhere. Like, where'd you come from? We had these group of guys who were classified to be the, point guards in New York City, but we didn't know who you were. So there wasn't a recruiting process for me. I see in the movies how, you play high school ball, you're getting letters from colleges, you're going on, college tours and invites. And, I didn't get that. I didn't go through that process. It was just, I played 1 year high school basketball. I wasn't graduating on time, so I had to go the junior college route. So Rodney Parker told me to go to CSI. He knew coaches out there. He said that was the best junior college situation to go to. So I went after JC. He was like, you know what, let's change course and let's leave early and go to D1 and redshirt your first year. And I did that. So the reason why I decided to go to Fordham is because Bob Hill, was the head coach at the time. He coached in the NBA 15 years prior. And in my mind, I was like, who better to prepare me for the NBA besides the NBA coach? So that's why I decided to go to Fordham. So I went to Fordham, redshirted my first year. Then I played 1 year, at Fordham, and I wasn't even thinking about going to the NBA after my first year. I just wanted to, put my name in the draft and kind of go to the combines and, play against that level of competition and see what I need to work on for the next season and seeing what, the NBA was looking for. So I could kind of, hone my skills. And I went to these combines and I realized that a lot of those guys who were at those camps, I'm not bashing anybody, but they couldn't play. So I at the time, kept my name in the draft.
And so you, as you went into that process, and let's jump back for a second before we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were getting ready for the combine, like now, obviously today, guys do very, very specific preparation. They have, people that have their basketball companies that prepare guys for the, the pre-draft work and all that kind of stuff. Do you remember at that time what you did? Did you do anything specific to get prepared for those combines, or was it just, hey, I'm going to go and play and show what I can do?
No, listen, to get to that level, you don't just walk into that a combine not having to work out and not really knowing what your skills are and you know and do well. You don't. That's not something that guys do. You actually have to work on your game. And for me, I put in the work. I there's up until that time, I had never practiced so much. I was in the gym every day. I was running 3 miles. I was running. Listen, I was in the best shape of my life. I was running 6 minute miles, doing 3 miles under 16 minutes. Uh, Not 3 minute miles. I'm tripping. Yeah, I said 6 miles.
6 minutes. Yeah, 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
Sounds,
Six minute
sounds
miles.
realistic. If you're running a
6
3 minute
minutes.
mile, you're in the wrong sport, Smush. You need to
No, I was
you
running.
need to be on the track, man.
No, I was running 6 minute miles, doing 3 miles under 17 minutes. Uh, I was getting up shots and doing dribble drills, and I was doing it all. I was staying sharp. I was sharp, and I
Were
was
you working
hungry.
out by yourself? Were you working out by yourself? Did you have, another player you were working out with? Did you have somebody that was a coach that was watching over you, or how are you going about doing that stuff?
Well, when I entered the draft, I had an unsigned agent at the time, and my agent, unsigned agent at the time, had other clients or other guys he had, that was either in the NBA already or just fresh out of college like me. So we were all working out together. So it was about a group of 5 or 6 guys that we were all just doing individual skills work, and then we was competing against each other every day, keeping each other sharp, and just preparing us for preparing ourselves, I would say, for these combines.
Registration is now open at www.headstartbasketball.com for this summer's Head Start basketball camps. We'll be hosting camps this summer in Strongsville, Westlake, Avon Lake, Oberlin, Brunswick, Highland Heights, Mentor, and Hudson. At Head Start Basketball, we care deeply about making a positive impact on the lives of young basketball players, both on and off the court. It's through building strong relationships with our players, parents, and coaching staff that we are able to use the game of basketball to enrich the lives of those we interact with, both inside and outside of our organization. We believe that our attention to detail, our growth mindset, and our commitment to lifelong learning allows us to help our players achieve their fullest potential. We are passionately committed to providing players, parents, and coaches with everything they need to reach their goals. These core values run through everything we do. Check out our website, www.headstartbasketball.com, and discover why you should attend a Head Start basketball camp this summer. Hope to see you there. And so you expected to be drafted fairly high, and then that ended up not being the case. And I know when I listened to one of the other podcasts that you were on, you talked about some of your thoughts about what may have happened in that situation. So I don't know if you want to describe what happened in that draft process, because I know you said that you could have possibly pulled your name out once you found out, but you felt like the feedback you were getting from NBA people heading into it was that, you had a chance to be drafted pretty high. So can you describe kind of what happened with the draft and then how you ended up, getting
Well,
for your first year?
well, at the end of the day, my name didn't get called. There's speculation and the story that I was led to believe, and I believe till this day. But I really don't like to, get into controversial things anymore.
Understood.
Was that my college coach didn't favor me, favor that I kept my name in the draft, and he was a little upset at the process, and decided to slander my name to other college coaches, and a lot of hearsay stuff. So again, I don't want to go into it. My name wasn't called. That's the reality of it, or of the situation. Whether I was, good enough to get drafted or not good enough to get drafted, I believe that I was still good enough to play in the NBA, and I wasn't going to allow that to dictate whether or not that I wasn't going to pursue the NBA.
So what was the next step then? Once when you become an undrafted free agent, then what's the thought process in terms of where you go and how you get involved in, getting invited to a training camp, participating in summer league? What was kind of happening at that point?
Okay. You know what? Let me backtrack first of all. I mean,
Okay.
because all of this is starting to, become fresh again in my mind. I actually had the opportunity to get drafted after, it was said and done. I had the opportunity of being drafted in the second round. I don't know if you guys or everybody knows the process, but the team actually calls your agent, and I guess in the second round they ask you, what's your thoughts on, wanting to be drafted and X, Y, and Z, and after that, wanting to be drafted by that particular team who wanted to draft me, and the reason being was because becoming a free agent, you hold all the power now. You're in control of where you can choose to go, what team you choose to work out with, and the direction you want your career to go in, instead of being tied down to an unguaranteed contract to a team that might not even sign you for the season. So
yeah,
for
you can find the best situation for you.
Exactly. So for me, after the draft, after that, being drafted in the second round, I sat down with my agent and we went down, the entire NBA, all the teams and their rosters and, guaranteed contracts and spots open. And we found the right situation for me, which team I wanted to, work out for and play for. And, I played in 3 summer leagues that summer. I destroyed in those summer leagues, and and this is where my story begins. Right back. I'll be in Cleveland tomorrow, tonight actually, and my clinic is tomorrow. Right back home.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's jump from there, because I think your backstory is great. I want to ask you one other question before we get into what you're doing now. And
Okay.
I know you played after your career in the NBA. You played overseas in a bunch of different places. So anytime I talk to somebody who played overseas, the one question that I always have to ask is, what's your craziest overseas basketball story? Because every guy that I've ever known in my entire life who's played overseas has one story of something crazy, whether it's fans, whether it's getting paid, whether it's some kind of travel situation. What's your craziest overseas basketball story?
Okay, my craziest overseas, but I have many, but there's one that takes the cake.
All right.
Would be my Greece experience. I was playing for the Aris team in Saloniki, and we are in the Greek Cup championship game playing against Olympiacos. And I don't know if you've ever been overseas or to an overseas basketball or football game, but they have the craziest fans. And when I say crazy, they're very passionate. I'm not, they're very passionate.
Way to be kind, Smush. I like it, man. I like
They're
it.
very passionate about their sports teams. And, at every game, there's about 200, 300 riot cops just to control the crowd and to control the fans, because they're extremely passionate people. So for the Greek Cup championship game, they couldn't mix the fans with each other. So one side of the arena was the Olympiacos fans, and the other side of the arena was our fans. And then down the middle in the arena was riot cops to kind of keep each side at bay. So I think it was the second quarter. I'm bringing the ball up, and I see a flare shoot across my head.
Nice.
Yeah, a flare shoot from one side of the court to the other into the stands, and of course, a riot broke out. Chanting, ripping up off the chairs and throwing it onto the court. Needless to say, the game was put on hold for about an hour and a half because the riot cops had to, clear the whole stadium out, and we finished the game with no fans.
Wow.
We finished the championship.
Were you able to get to the locker room before it got too crazy when that happened, or were you guys out there on the floor while the riot was going on?
Oh no, we were out there for a lot of the time. We couldn't get to we didn't get to the locker room in time. So I was witness to the fans picking up chairs and throwing it at the riot cops, and the burning of flags and the flicking of cigarette butts, and
That's crazy.
yeah, all of that. Yeah.
That is crazy. Well, that's a good one. You might rank in the top 5 of the ones I've heard.
Mm.
I like that one, Smush. It's very, very good. All right, so let's jump ahead now to what you're doing with your camps and clinics and the things that you're doing there, and just tell us a little bit about kind of where the idea came from, and then what you're doing and why it's so important to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm doing Smush Park Elite, Smush Inspires. Smush Inspires is my nonprofit. It's my community work. It's me giving back to not only the game of basketball, but just to the inner city youth, the youth that may come off as overlooked, and the unprivileged, so to say. Unlike myself growing up, I didn't play tournament basketball. I didn't play on the AAU teams. I grew up playing in the recreational centers, and I just know that for me growing up, I would have enjoyed or appreciated, the many New York City, players that actually made it out and played pro ball, whether it was overseas or NBA. I would have appreciated if they would have came back to the community and gave me a word of inspiration, or do a basketball clinic or a camp, or show me the proper footwork to a triple threat or inside pivot, or just how to work on my jump shot. And here I am in a position where I played professional ball 6 years in the NBA, 10 years overseas, and I see that there's a need for some community work, for guys to come back and give back to the community, and give some of these kids some hope, some inspiration that they too can make it out. Because again, I wasn't one of those kids who grew up playing in the AAU circuit. I wasn't privy to playing in basketball tournaments my entire life, of growing up playing on a team. I just grew up playing street ball, and I just there's a million kids that play basketball here in New York City every day, and I just want to walk into a park. Like it's an affection of mine for me to just walk into a park everywhere I go, and just shoot hoops with the local kids. They don't even need to know who I am. I just want to go in and hang out with them, and get up a couple shots. If they'll walk out, and if they know who I am, then they do. If they don't, then it is what it is.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to use the game as a vehicle to give back. I know that that's some of the things that I feel like for me as a kid, the game of basketball gave me so much, and I didn't obviously reach the same levels of success that you had, but I was able to play in college, and I just know that the game impacted me in such a way that it still is influencing me today in the things that I do, and I feel like the person that I am, I attribute that to my family, but I attribute it a lot to what I learned out on the basketball court. And to your point, I think when you see somebody, if you're a kid and you see somebody who's had the type of success that you've had in the game, and not only that, but then somebody who's willing to come back and give their time and talk to kids and just spend time with them and be able to teach them some of the things both about the game of basketball and the game of life. To me, that's just something that, man, it's invaluable. If we had more guys that were doing some of the things that you're doing, we could continue to make an impact on kids and really change the trajectory of their life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, talk a little bit about what you actually do at one of your camps, clinics. Can you describe kind of when a kid comes in, what can they expect when they go to when they show up for the clinic tomorrow? What can a kid expect to do and to see?
Okay. Well, my objective to for these basketball camps and clinics is more than just the basketball aspect of it. there's only so much that you could try to teach a kid basketball wise in one day. You know, a lot of the stuff that I go over, for me, the most important part for me, and this is why I do what I do, is the inspirational speech part, where I can, kind of connect with the kids, connect with the youth, and let them ask me anything that they want, and at that moment, I kind of share and impart to them what my experiences growing up was, and my how basketball was a part of my life, and what I did to be successful, and what I did that almost cost me my success. Like I'm an open book, and I try to inspire. I try to inspire in the kids to believe in themselves. No matter what their dreams are. Like I said, it's more than just basketball. A lot of these kids that come in want to be doctors or lawyers or architects, or some of them want to be football players or baseball players. Actually, I had a couple that want to be soccer players at my last clinic. So it's more than just basketball. What they take away from, I hope what they take away from my clinic is life lessons, and inspiration to to look past their hardships or their trials or their obstacles, and help them to overcome those things, because it's going to happen. Obstacles are going to happen, hardships are going to happen, difficulties are going to happen. You can't stop that from happening in your life, but what you can do is always believe that you will be successful, you will achieve, and that you will and can overcome.
That's a great message. And I think that too often kids, especially kids who have, a difficult home life or aren't maybe as happy as they would like to be, when they can hear that message from somebody who they look up to, somebody who's had success. And again, when it's not just about the game of basketball, that's one of the big things that, that I'm a believer in, is that we have to use basketball. Again, I love the game as much as anybody, but we also have to use it as a way to inspire kids to become better people, become better citizens, and to improve their lives. And I think it's a credit to you what you're doing and what you have done to be able to reach out to the kids in the community and and make an impact. And to me, that's really what it's all about. Let's jump to your world record attempt that you have coming up. Up this. It's going to be in the spring, or when? Tell me when it's going to be, and describe for what it is.
All right, so I was able to connect with John Stolt, the creator of the Rock basketball, and he had this notion to want to break a world record, and he brought me on a board to help him break this record. It's right now the record is 7,500 people dribbling a basketball at the same time, simultaneously, and that record is being held outside of the United States, and that's mind-boggling to me, because basketball is our number one sport here in America. So Rock wanted to kind of shatter that world record. We need 8,000 people in one area to be dribbling a Rock basketball. I will be present, and of course John Stowe will be present. Dickie V is gonna be the commentator.
How many people you got signed up? How many people you got signed up so far? How close are you to what the numbers are?
I don't know what the numbers are right yet, but we definitely need all the people that we can that are gonna be a part of it, that want to be a part of it. They can contact me at smush-inspires.org. They can follow what we're doing on my Instagram pages, Smush Parker Elite or Smush Inspires, and you can find out more information on it there. But it's going to be held this September in Kingston, New York.
All right, people, it's time to make a road trip to Kingston, New York.
Yeah,
hopefully we get some people out to to help you out and break that. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. It's gonna be a lot of fun, actually. And the participants will get their name put on a plaque, and there's going to be a monument in the city of Kingston, New York. So your name will go on a permanent plaque, and it's going to be put on a monument in the city of Kingston, New York.
That is very cool. That is very cool. Well, Smush, I want to be respectful of your time. So if there's anything else, I know you already shared out your contact information. If there's anything that we didn't hit on today that you want to share, go ahead and do that. And then if there is any other places where people can reach out to you, go ahead and share that, and then we'll wrap things up.
Okay. Well, I said my social media pages is Smush Parker Elite, Smush Inspires. The world record, is being held this September in Kingston, New York, and the proceeds will go to the V Foundation, which is Dickie V's foundation, and the Ulster County Boys and Girls and Smush Inspires foundations. It's going to be awesome. More information can be found on what I'm doing, and what the world record information will be on smush-inspires.org. Check me out, and look forward to being in Cleveland tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, we'll put all that information in the show notes so people don't have to try to copy it down as they're listening. So,
Okay.
Smush, we can't thank you enough for jumping on with us here today. And to everyone out there, we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks. Head Start Basketball's Player Development Academy offers Cleveland area players a unique opportunity to improve their basketball skills. Regardless of a player's age, skill level, or position, training with Head Start Basketball will elevate your game to the next level. Do you want to improve your ball handling, become a better shooter, or develop into a more skilled, confident player? Our Academy classes offer training that's designed to do just that. Our training sessions are innovative and will have you learning skills that are transferable to actual games. We have 4 different class skill levels for boys and girls, ages 4 and up. All Player Development Academy classes will be held at the Strongsville Recreation Center. For more information or to get registered, please visit www.headstartbasketball.com.
Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.